I swear, this did not start intentionally the way it ended up. The way it started was completely an accident, but it's amazing how sometimes accidents can turn into lucky finds, can turn into really awesome Easter eggs. Welcome to the Inris Files, stories about culture, history, and the human condition from a Generation X point of view. And today I'm going to tell you why I wear different colored shoes. Turns out that stories are an amazing way to break the ice. Icebreakers are the icebreakers are in many ways the the salve that gets a conversation rolling. Sometimes you just don't know how to get that conversation started. But one way to do it is to get somebody else to ask you a question. Now, this is absolutely true. This has been true for years. If you were to meet me in person, I mean, you see me now on a camera here. You can't see me from the waist down, but I assure you, if we were to meet in person, there is something about me that is different from other people. And no, I'm not a centaur, or and no, I don't have any bizarre physical deformities. What I do have is different colored shoes. You will notice these shoes kind of match, but not in color. Why is that? It all started because of a phone conversation I was having with my girlfriend at the time. This takes us back several years ago. It was my first girlfriend after I had gotten a divorce, and each of us had several children. We also had custody arrangements such that we happened to have our free nights at the same time of the week, and we also had our children during the same nights of the week as each other. So that meant if I had the night off from the kids and she had the night off from the kids, we could spend time together. And if I had the kids, she also had the kids, and we were spending time with our kids. Now, on one particular occasion, we were talking with each other on the phone, and we were talking on the phone every day, as healthy relationships often will. And what are you up to right now? Oh, I'm taking care of the laundry. What are you doing right now? Oh, I'm folding the laundry as well. Uh, yeah, I'm folding the boys' laundry right now. Da 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 da. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have my boys do their own laundry. I'm actually taking care of my own laundry right now. But they take care of their own. This was how the conversation started. We didn't need an icebreaker, obviously. We were already dating. She said, "You have your boys fold their own laundry." I'm like, "They do their own laundry from beginning to end." Now, understand that our kids were roughly the same age as each other. Her youngest was just a year or two younger than my youngest. My oldest was only a year or two older than her oldest. And so because they were in roughly the same age bracket, she was a little surprised that I had my kids taking care of their own laundry at a relatively young age. And she said, "Well, why? Why would you? How do you make sure that they fold their you know fold their socks together? My kids would never do that." And I'm like, "What difference does it make if when they fold their socks? Or what does it difference does it make if they even fold their socks?" Well, how do you make sure they keep them together so that when they put on their socks, they're always wearing the same kind? Well, again, why does it matter? Now, understand, I'm a guy, and I realize that there are some stereotypes that will tend to accrue to guys that do not always necessarily accrue to women. But for whatever reason, she thought it was important that they wear the same socks when they're wearing a pair of socks. And you can already tell that that wasn't as important to me. Part of the thing is because I had 3 kids, and because they were all boys, I did a lot of shopping at the big warehouse stores like Costco, that kind of thing, where you would buy in bulk, and that included, in my case, socks. So really, they all had similar socks anyway. It's not like there were a ton of different choices. Oh, here's a blue sock and here's an orange sock, whatever. At the big warehouse stores, you get socks that are either tube socks or ankle socks, and then each of those might come in black or gray or white. You only had two different colors to choose from for each of the two different styles that were available. So I'm already thinking there's not a lot of difference between the socks anyway. And I decided the other thing too is when you're looking at socks, or when you're looking at somebody's feet, you don't normally see their socks. Normally, they're wearing shoes. So I decided I was going to make my point by putting on different colored socks and then taking a picture of that, and then putting on my shoes, taking a picture and say, "See, I've you can't tell that I'm wearing different colored socks." So, and again, keep in mind, she's at her house taking care of her laundry. I'm or taking care of her boys' laundry. I'm at my house taking care of my laundry. So I reach into my sock drawer. I pull out two different colored socks, although they are arguably, I mean, they're the exact same style because, again, buying them in bulk. So I pull on a black sock and I pull on a gray sock, and then I take a picture of my feet and I say, "Here you go, Exhibit A, different colored socks." Now, her immediate response was, "No, no, 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 no. That's not what I mean." Because they could be different thicknesses, they could be different whatever. But in the meantime, while she's texting me all of that, I'm reaching for my shoes, and then I realize, wait a minute, I could do something different. Now, as it so happens, I have a family member, an uncle, who had recently retired from look, I'll use the brand name. He retired from Nike. He had worked at Nike long enough, and this could be any brand of shoe, by the way. In this particular case, that was the brand. He had worked for them for a very long time. So by the time he retired, he had been entitled to keeping the friends and family discount in place even after he retired. And since I was family, I was on the short list of people eligible for the friends and family discount. What this meant was when it was the beginning of the school year for the kids, I could take them to the outlet store and use the discount that I got as a friends and family member, but also take advantage of the back to school specials. But wait, not only that, if you buy the shoes at the outlet store, so they're already discounted, if you buy the ones that are against the back wall, those are very steeply discounted because those are the ones where they don't have a lot anymore of that particular style, and so they're just phasing them out. So you go to the outlet store, you buy the ones that are against the back wall during the back to school sale, and then use the friends and family discount. You can walk out of there with a pair of shoes that might have originally sold for $200 a pair, and you're walking out of there only paying 20 or 30 bucks for the pair, which is, look, when you've got multiple kids, you're a single parent, you have to be frugal. So what that meant was I was getting new shoes for the kids every year. And while I was there, I went ahead and got new shoes for myself because look at the prices. I know that when I'm ready for the next pair of shoes, I've got a pair of shoes I can just go ahead and grab. The thing is, I am also an adult. My feet don't grow the way the kids' feet grew. And I didn't wear out shoes the same way kids wear out their shoes. So I was slowly accumulating pairs of shoes at a far faster rate. I say slowly. I was accumulating them at a faster rate than I was going through them. So, so I had a pair of Nikes that I had been wearing for a while, but I thought, wait a minute. What if I look through the shoes that I've accumulated? Is it possible that I have two pair that are the same model style, but are different colors? Because here's the thing, like automobiles and clothing, shoe manufacturers come out with new models every year. Now, I happen to be partial to the Pegasus line of Nikes. Again, not necessarily relevant to the point here, but what that meant was whenever I was going to look for shoes, I would look for the Pegasus shoes, and I would try on my size, and if I like the way they feel for that particular model year, go ahead and buy them. And I was only buying one pair for myself any given year. But by this point, I had already accumulated. I had three pair of shoes that I hadn't even started wearing yet. So I looked at the style and, oh, what do you know? Two of them are Pegasus 29s. So I open up the boxes, and the one pair of Pegasus 29s is an electric orange with electric neon green piping on the sides, and then the other one was a neon teal with an electric orange offset, right? You know, the piping was and the shoelaces were this electric orange. In fact, it was the same electric orange as the main color in the other pair. So even though the teal and the neon green weren't the same color, you could be forgiven for looking at them and thinking that they were actually intended to go together. So I took one shoe from one pair, and I took the other shoe from the other pair, and then I put each of those on, and then took a picture of my feet wearing the different colored shoes, and then I sent this picture via text to my girlfriend and said, "Here you go. You can't tell that I'm wearing different colored socks." You can imagine the response. Her response was actually, "No, now you're just hastening the downfall of Western civilization by violating societal norms," which is a great response. I have, in fact, I even said at the time, I responded, violating or hastening the downfall of Western civilization by violating societal norms is going to be the name of my next band. Anyway, this led to a lot of good-natured ribbing back and forth, and we had our typical, usual, enjoyable conversation, and then she was wrapping up her laundry, and I was wrapping up my laundry, and it was time for us to go and do other chores, getting ready for having the kids the next day. However, this was a weekend. This was a Sunday evening, and uh, and so Monday morning, I was going to have to go to work, and I'm looking at my shoes, and this phrase is running through my head: hastening the downfall of Western civilization by violating societal norms. I worked at a multinational corporation that was, like any large corporation, a little conservative in the way that people worked in the office. Uh, Even though I worked as a member of the IT department, I did IT work to support the finance department. The finance department of any major multinational corporation is by nature going to tend to dress relatively conservatively. However, since I was an IT individual, I could kind of get away with more casual attire as a general rule. So even if everybody else was wearing business casual with khaki slacks and a button-down shirt, I would frequently go in more with blue jeans and a respectable, maybe a respectable t-shirt and a maybe a respectable plaid or Hawaiian style button down over it. So for me to go in with different colored shoes, especially brand new with the electric colors, by the way, when I say electric, I don't mean literally electric. I'm just saying that they were so bright in color that they really, really popped. And for me to do this, there was no doubt I was going to get a lot of attention. There was nothing subtle about the my color choice in this particular case. So after thinking about it, I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and wear this to work. And one of the reasons I decided that this was a reasonable approach was because I worked very closely. The person who I shared an office with was also my manager and had also been a friend for many, many years. We both knew each other from writing circles. We were both science fiction writers, and so when he needed to add somebody to his team. He knew I had done database work, and he knew I was looking for work. He said, "Hey, I need somebody on my team. Are you willing to join me?" I said yes. So we ended up working together. We had already been friends for 10 years before this happened. Now here we are working together. And he had a science fiction event he was going to be going to on a particular day after work. And for that science fiction event, he wanted to dress up like one of the characters in his high fantasy novel, and that character wore a kilt. And we're living in the Seattle area, and there's a company here called Utilikilt, and they make kilts that have pockets and belts and loops to hang tools on and all that. They're very, very practical, very useful. At least that's what I'm given to understand. So he had bought one for this costume, and he on a lark decided to wear it to work just to see what people would comment. So I figured me showing up wearing different colored shoes, if he's brave enough to wear a kilt to work, I can go to work wearing different colored shoes and we'll see what happens. Show up to work, and I have everybody I encountered in the hallway. In fact, it seemed like I encountered more people who I did not know previously in the hallway because they all stopped to talk to me. They would stop, I would stop. They would look down at my shoes, they would look up at me, they would look down at my shoes, they would look up at me, and then they would say something like, "So, it was dark this morning when you got up, huh?" That was a good one. Or um, uh, did those shoes come that way? That was a frequent question. Well, of course they came that way. I didn't dye either of them myself. Um, every once in a while, somebody would say, "I'll bet you have a pair just like that at home," which of course is true. Um, so it was absolutely hilarious. The different responses I was getting from people, and they were all playful. I eventually realized, oh, that first guy who said that thing about it was dark when you put on your shoes, he's one of the VPs. I'd never noticed him because VPs and common working people don't tend to notice each other when they pass each other in the hallways, and yet he noticed the shoes. We engaged in a little conversation, and much little hilarity was enjoyed by all. So uh that was the way things went on the first day that I wore the shoes to work. And I decided, this I'm going to continue this for a little while. Now, interestingly, one of the things I eventually learned was, so I started switching which pair I was wearing, because it occurred to me I need to make sure that I wear them out evenly, because If at some point I want to wear just the teal pair or just the orange pair, I didn't want to be wearing a pair where the left shoe was broken in and the right shoe was still stiff and new. So I would alternate the pair every other day. Something that I did not know at the time was that if you wear your shoes for a day and then let them sit for a day and keep doing that, you prolong the life of the shoe by more than just the amount of days on the calendar. So it's like if you wear them every other day, the shoe doesn't last twice as long by the calendar. It lasts 3 times as long by the calendar. So you extend the life of your shoes by about half. Meanwhile, I was still accumulating shoes slowly. Every year I would get a new pair of shoes, but in the meantime now, my shoes were wearing out much more slowly. Eventually, I stopped buying shoes. What I did do was, stop buying shoes for myself. Kids, of course, continued to need shoes. Eventually, they were wearing the same size as I was. Here you go. Here's a pair I bought a few years ago. Um, but what that meant was over the years, I started looking for, okay, I know I've already got, Pegasus 33s, so I'm gonna look for another pair of Pegasus 33s if those are available. And interestingly enough, I was ultimately able to pair up, any of the shoes that I did already have. And I have stopped, as I said, I have stopped buying the shoes because I don't need to anymore. Um, let's see, these shoes right here are in the rotation, but the thing is, I not only have the other pair of these, I've also got a pair that's blue and red, and I have a pair that is kind of an electric green and a royal blue. Um, Interestingly enough, the colors of these shoes happen to match the colors of different football teams in the NFL. For those of you who don't live in the United States, I'm referring to American football. I am not referring to what we would otherwise call soccer here in the US. But regardless, you know what it's like. You've got a team. The team has their official colors, and that orange and teal happens to be the colors of the Miami Dolphins. The red and blue that I had happens to be the colors of the Buffalo Bills, and since I happen to grow up in Buffalo, again, this was just a coincidence, but I happen to have a pair that kind of matched Buffalo, and then by the time I was aware of what I was doing, I ended up getting shoes that matched the colors of the Seattle Seahawks. Uh, who, by the way, just won the Super Bowl recently. So if you're seeing this years down the road and I'm referencing a Super Bowl win and you're like, Seahawks haven't won a Super Bowl in years, now you know how old this video is. The reason I mention the colors is because that adds to one of the possible answers I can give when somebody says, "Oh, the shoes come like that." This absolutely happened during the Seattle Seahawks recent run. Uh, when they got to the Super Bowl, they were playing against the New England Patriots. Now, the New England Patriots, when they wear their dark colored uniforms, it's a very dark blue, and then but the matching colors are like silver and white and maybe just a tiny bit of red. Whereas in Buffalo's case, it's a royal blue instead of a navy blue, and it's a bright red. Um, I decided when I was out shopping for party supplies for game day that I was going to wear my Buffalo Bills jersey. The thing about jerseys when you're wearing the tops, unless you paid $250 for an officially licensed, I mean, The ones I bought were licensed, but if they're the official shirts that you buy from the team, they'll say the team name, but otherwise they won't say the team name. They'll say that they'll have the NFL logo, so it's paid for, it's licensed, but they didn't pay for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going shopping and I'm wearing a jersey that, while it is the Buffalo Bills colors, you could easily mistake it for New England colors. And I was wearing my Buffalo Bills colored shoes. Believe me, I am not a fashion icon. This was just something that, as I was getting ready to go shopping, I thought it would be funny. So this is how I dressed. Bump into to a few folks who definitely have that urban vibe going on, and they're younger, and as such, there's more energy. And less timidity. It's funny how, Garrison Keillor once referred to his closing line from when he would tell stories on A Prairie Home Companion, which was his radio show. He would end the stories with, "Oh shoot, I told this. I already told the story wrong. It wasn't Garrison Keillor. It's another guy like Garrison Keillor, but he would always end his stories with where the introverts stare at their shoes and the extroverts stare at your shoes." So keeping that line in mind, yeah, as when you're a little bit younger, when you're in your teens, you're a little more brave and interested in speaking to other people, and these guys are like, "No, man, no way, you're wearing, no way." And I look at them, and then I gesture and I'm saying, "No, no, man, Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Bills. Of course I'm rooting for the Seahawks." And they look at the shoes and they're like, all right, you're all right." So I got a pass on that because they thought I was a New England fan, and I quickly disabused them of that notion. Anyway, so I've just now spent this amount of time telling you the story about how I ended up wearing different colored shoes. I have been wearing different colored shoes ever since then. And that phrase, hastening the downfall of Western civilization by violating societal norms, has stuck in my brain. And actually, by the way, I see in the comments here, great name for a band. I completely agree. I have not actually named a band that, but yeah, I could see doing that. It just rolls off the tongue. Hastening the downfall of Western civilization by violating societal norms. I don't think the acronym quite works, but uh, the long and the short of it is, I could tell this story as a long story, as I just have. I could tell it as a short story. I have continued to wear these shoes long after my girlfriend and I have parted ways as romantic partners. We still talk, but but this has lasted. This has gone the distance, and it has always sparked a pleasant conversation. I have never had to deal with somebody giving me a lot of grief because I was wearing different colored shoes. And I say all of that to bring it all back to the very beginning. This is the power of an icebreaker. Having a story like this is a great way of being able to break the ice when you don't know what else to say and you do want to start a conversation with somebody. This has happened to me many times. I want to start a conversation with somebody, but I'm not sure. But if I'm walking, if they can see what I'm wearing, they will inevitably notice the shoes. They're the ones who are going to break the ice. And then I have something with which to start the conversation. Inevitably, they're going to ask questions. Inevitably, they're going to tell me their stories. And now a conversation is being had. And it's just a great way to connect with people, because everybody has a story like that about something, about what they're wearing or what they do, or, oh, yeah, about how they fold their laundry, or when they started having their children fold their own laundry, or whatever the case may be. We all have so much in common with each other and so many opportunities to connect with stories like that. And so that's today's story. And now I throw it out to you. Do you have a story like that? Do you have an icebreaker? Is there something you do, something you wear, some way you present yourself that is just a little different from other people? Do you have a story that you use as a go to break the ice? If you do, why don't you mention it down in the comments? Because I would love to hear it. I would really love to hear what your stories are. As you can tell, I collect stories, and I very much appreciate you listening to my stories. Thank you very much for visiting for this episode of the Interest Files, and we'll see you again next time. Have a good one.